All right, hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name's Brogan, and today we're not back for a training stream. We are back for a morning stream. Now, I have taken over the morning stream today. Obviously, Mike's been busy. Let me turn my mic down actually. Make sure it's not too loud. Hopefully, you're all doing really, really well. I did say in Telegram, not a familiar face, but hopefully, I still bring the same energy as Mike would do in the morning. So hopefully, you guys have been great. Hopefully, you had a great start to your morning, depending where you are in the world, you know. I'm going to try and keep it, similar to how Mike would do. Obviously, we've got some articles, we've got some charts, not like main, like Bitcoin or anything like that. Again, I know my track record of charts. I will keep it as short as possible. Now, we do have a timer on the screen. Now, if you do know me, you know how I don't stick to a timer. We're going to have it on, but I'm probably not going to stick to it. I'm probably going to go a bit over, but I'm not going to try and yap about a lot of things or go over too much. So I will start it, but obviously we will temper expectations. So we've got some additions to the UI. We've also got the sidebar. I'll go through it in a second. Obviously, we also have some X files I do need to go through. And yeah, you know what? I'm very excited. I always love doing them. Sometimes I do the morning streams. I do love doing them. Obviously, if I did the chart streams and the morning streams, you guys get sick of me and just my constant talking. So but I am privileged to be here in the morning. So yeah, let's probably just get started. We've got a lot to cover today, a lot to cover. So I'm going to go straight into X Files, have a little coverage. Now, actually, no, you don't know. I will go through. Ooh, no. We don't need to go through sidebar. No, I will go through it as we go through it. Okay. So let me move to X Files. We have the first one here. So this is a tweet from obviously Mike, the other part of Crypto Warehouse. This is about Muse animated series. Now, this is actually really, really sick, and I'm glad that we actually have it on the X Files. I do want to mention it out again. This is a point we've been making, multiple times over on Mew, and why I think the delineation between Mew and everything else in the market in terms of having these community coins is exactly this reason. With their obviously animated series, we have been harping on about so many times now about they're so different, guys. Look, they're gonna have an animated series. Well, it's actually coming to fruition now and actually happening. So this is a kind of a 1 minute 41 video. I believe this is I would go check this out. I'm not gonna go I'm not gonna watch the whole thing. I'm not gonna talk about it because again, it's already been covered, and we have so you don't even understand. If I open my notepad up and showed you guys, we have a lot to cover, a lot of charts. Okay, I'm gonna try and keep it as short as possible today. I know, if you know me, I say that every time. Actually, you know what? I should say hello to everyone. Actually, I haven't done this. Hello to Bush Boy. Good morning to you. In Agendas, Kishan, Tariq, Inano, Max, KB, Alpha Doodle. Shouts to all of you for being in the stream. Okay, appreciate you all for being here. People saying we're climbing. Yeah. I mean, you know what? It's been nice because the majority of what I've been saying so far, the general kind of theme of what I've been talking about on my chart streams anyway, has been Bitcoin go down, everything else go up. And you know what? It's been pretty nice. Obviously, you know how I am with Ethereum, but it's it's been nice to see it kind of follow a nice pattern. And we actually do have a X file on something along those lines, so we will get onto that in a second. Obviously, with all these plenty different things we need to talk about. So next up, we have this as well. Obviously, you guys already know this. Okay, most of you here have been to at least one of the quizzes. We do have another quiz coming up, 23rd of July. Obviously, on Wednesday, in 2 days, whenever you count it on. It is the Wolfswap season 14. So I believe we'll probably have a 50-50 again. Because obviously this isn't something which it's just a Wolfswap quiz. It's actually something new happening in Wolfswap. So I believe we probably might have a 50-50 again. But a cool thing about next stream or next quiz stream is we now have a global leaderboard. So we were talking about it last quiz. If you were there, obviously, hopefully you'll remember I was talking about having a cool global leaderboard. Well, we do have that. Now, obviously, we're not going to have the data of every single person having 10 streams, but we do have last stream's data added onto it. So we can filter by, all these cool different, points. So it'd be nice to have a consistent kind of leaderboard we can constantly look at, stream by stream. So we do have that as a new feature, which is quite cool. So I'm very excited for Wednesday for the next quiz. So do get ready for that. Do, sharpen up on Wolfswap. I believe, again, like I said, I believe we will be going through the latest on Wolfswap, obviously with season 14. So you might not need to go into full detail on, obviously researching it. Not saying it's like a test paper or anything, but maybe look into it. Now it wouldn't be an X file without nature. It is amazing. I am aware of that. Do not worry. So we do have this one. I thought I did want to show this one because it's just a cute goat. And he's very, very happy, and there's things I can say here, app needs more happy goats. well, if you guys are all on X, you would make up this quota. You guys are happy and you guys are goes, all sorts of stuff. But I just wanted to show the happy goes. Okay, it's just a nice thing. Now, the last thing, again, I know I'm going to be heavily struck for time today, as I'm normally not. I'm normally very free to run around in the field of my own words and just constantly talk about Bitcoin and all these sorts of things. But today, like I said, you're gonna get a professional me, okay? Because I know how I am on my streams, okay? But today's different. So this is the last X file. Now I didn't want to go over this. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes on this or anything, but I did want to bring attention to this. I think it is an interesting read. Interesting read. So, Cryptopulse, according to this altcoin playbook, which phase do we think we're in right now? ETH starting to flip, large caps going parabolic, full blown alt season, all this sort of stuff. So basically, the general idea is the path to alt season. So I don't know who marked this out. In particular, I don't know whose name. I assume it's obviously from Z Creator. But basically, the phase one is Bitcoin. So flow of money moves into Bitcoin, causing price surges. Obviously, we've kind of seen that with the 125, 123. I can't remember the exact price at the top of that kind of range we had literally not too long ago. Phase overlap, money flows into Ethereum, but it struggles to keep up with Bitcoin. As we're kind of seeing now, I mean, we can see. Obviously, I'll actually read this. Ethereum goes back and forth with Bitcoin and starts outperforming it. And then phase two, Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin, and we hear talks of the flipping. And then money is starting to trickle into large caps. So basically, we're kind of in this murky phase two, coming into phase two, slightly into it, whatever. Where obviously Ethereum's having a nice rip. Again, we've seen with Bitcoin, we've had the massive pump. We're having these retracements into all of our different areas we've been talking about. And obviously, Ethereum is having this massive move up as we speak. And obviously, Solana's, as obviously, if you move down the list of CoinMarketCap, you've probably seen, different, Bitcoin, stablecoin, Ethereum, Solana, or some things above Solana, but I would consider that kind of the process. And we can kind of see that obviously with Bitcoin, we definitely have Ethereum with obviously in terms of the 7-day gain and pretty much the gain in total. Ethereum has definitely been just the top dog. But obviously we can see Solana is still doing pretty well. I think we're 191 right now. I will jump over to CoinMarketCap in a second just to see the general breakdown of percentages and whatnot. But as we see it, we can defer this from CoinMarketCap alone. We can see this. We can see the Ethereum move is crazy. Because obviously on my streams it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. So I can see this. I can see Bitcoin. It's I've had streams where it's literally just been neck and neck with what it was 7 days ago. It's been negative on 24-hour. Ethereum's up 20% on the 7-day and it's still going up on the 24-hour. And then Solana's maybe 10%. So it's still going up as with relative everything else, but it's not at that phase which Ethereum is right now, which I believe is probably within phase two right now, and whatnot. And again, I'm not fully locked in on every single tweet there has been, so I don't know if anyone's mentioned the flipping, but I'm sure there probably has been people. And then from there, now I can move on to that is large caps. So Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin, and large caps are going parabolic. Obviously, money's starting to trickle. Basically, a trickle-down effect. It's like an economy, We have the main dog, Bitcoin, and then it moves down. It's kind of the same idea. Where it's not. I mean, it's not the same idea actually. To be fair, but it's kind of like whatever. It's kind of like a trickle-down effect. Whatever. Phase 3, large caps. Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin and large caps are going parabolic, as I just read. And regardless of market cap, some altcoins with strong fundamentals are having pumps, and then we get to the alt season. So large caps have gone full vertical, and we're seeing below tops, mid caps, low caps. So basically everything you would expect in an alt season, everything in between crap coins. This is kind of the heyday of crypto. We have the fundamentals, we have Bitcoin, obviously. This is where the fundamentalists and the people who just like a strong base in crypto. These are where the people are very happy, and then you obviously get the other side of crypto, which is Bird Eye, GMGN, all these sorts of places. Axios, I think another one's called. I don't know all the platforms. Obviously, these high frequency meme coin trading. These are where these people are very happy. I have actually seen people, and there was a person who was close to Crypto Warehouse, who is also within this field, who is just constantly on about meme coins, and some of their latest tweets have been, is it over? And they've been really negative. And obviously, this you can clearly see why they're negative based on this chart. In terms of they were talking about, what's the point of meme coins anymore? Is it over? Are we ever going to see the same meme coins we saw? I don't know when the time frame you mentioned, but basically he was very depressed about how meme coins were just doing nothing and talking about how they weren't going up. Well, this is kind of clearly why, because it's just not that time. You know, the time is Bitcoin. The time is the fundamentals right now. The time is the main coins. It's not all season. It's not the coins where you can just go and invest in some like crap like Hawk2Earth coin and there you go. You know, you've made your money. But obviously we will get to that point. But I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to get involved in that point, but you know what I'm saying. Let me read the chat quickly, see what people are saying. Good morning. I see a lot of good mornings. Bags are happy. Yeah, you know, bags are happy. Bitcoin Thomas is clapping. We will look at that in a second. Obviously, I've got, you know, I've just got so much to look at. Manjeet, good morning to you as well. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. But yeah, that's kind of, you know, I just wanted to point that out quickly and just like talk it through it. But I do want to jump over to Cormac now just to see some percentages before we move on to the charts. And again, like I said, I'm going to be so like concise and quick on the charts. It's like you won't recognize me. 11:11. Chats to the, you know, people who 11, whatever. It's 1191 right now for Bitcoin. Not bad. Not bad. I mean, it's 2.3, 2.7 down 7 day. We were about 121, I think it was. I remember on my stream. Obviously, we've looked at the areas I looked at. I was talking about 121. We came to it, and then we had a big retracement. I think we're kind of, you know, waking up a tiny bit now. I'm not saying we're pumping or anything, but I think. I haven't looked at Bitcoin for the stream, so I haven't prepared any charts for it. But I think, you know, we're not doing too badly. Obviously, as we were talking about with Ethereum, you know, again for me, I'm Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, so that's kind of just my main standpoint. So I look at, obviously, we can see, you know, obviously XRP and all that sort of stuff. But with Ethereum, you can see 24% on the 7 day, 24-hour 2%. It's been the uptick has been insane. 3,782 right now. We've literally hit like just as I've been looking at the chart on Ethereum. We've literally hit the last area before we saw like max high for Ethereum in terms of a resistance sell area kind of thing going on. So we took a high not too long ago. You might be able to see it maybe back there. I think the high was ages ago. You might not be able to see it, but basically we literally had like basically one main area, in my opinion anyway. We had one main area for Ethereum before we saw like max highs. So it's crazy. But 24% like obviously we alluded to. And then one for Solana. I did talk about us coming back up again for Solana. I think last stream I remember, or my last chart stream anyway. Obviously, some of you guys weren't there. I completely understand that. We were kind of talking about the 181, 183. I can't remember which exact price it was. Area. Obviously, we had a retracement from there. And I remember talking about us having probably another move back upwards towards our, you know, above the 183 area, and we have done that, which is quite nice. So it's going to be a good Tuesday. I'll say that much. So yeah, again, we can kind of see this regardless. You know, with what we talked about the alt seasons, we can clearly see we're in this Ethereum mode right now. But quickly jump over to the 24-hour, just see what's going on. Put your penguins. I mean, I'm sure Mike's better than this. I think he goes to the 24-hour and has more words to say. I just kind of look at it, just see green and red. I mean, I'm a Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. You know, I had my moment where I tried with GMGN. I tried with, you know, I will say COM is a great coin. But I tried. You know what? I just prefer looking at Bitcoin. But you know, I've got so much to talk about. I'm not going through this. So we can now move on to the charts. Which actually, I don't know if this is the first chart. It is. Okay, perfect. This is the first chart. So close this and close this actually. So I want to talk about. I'm gonna go on the high time frame. On the monthly right now, I've tried to go high time frame. Obviously, I think Mike talks about high time frame as well. This isn't a regular occurrence, but it gives a more general chart for this. Now I know white hurts people's eyes, and you know it's just my, you know, it's cleaner. It's more. There's a study on this actually with writing text and like people like programming and stuff. It's actually you can conceptualize and comprehend things better when it's black on white or color on white rather than white on black. Apparently, anyway. Obviously, you know, I'm not a scientist, but I don't know. I just prefer white. I just think it feels more professional. I'm not saying it's not professional if you're on a different color, but it just feels cleaner. Whatever. I'm just saying it might be a bit of a flashbang for people who are used to the blues and the blacks and whatnot. So anyway, whatever. That's not the point. Dixie. Okay, so we're in this phase now. I have drawn out I'm not normally a range type of guy, you know. I like my walks on my beach, you know, my cold alcoholic drinks and my relaxing, you know, my relaxing times. I'm not normally a range guy. Okay, that's not how I roll. But I thought I would draw it out. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm a range guy. I do, obviously, we have uptrends, downtrends. We do have bull and bear and whatnot, all the sorts, whatever I allude to on my streams anyway. But I'm not normally one to draw those trends. But, you know, I thought I would because it has been drawn before on Mike's stream. I think I have that frozen. For a bit of familiarity in terms of what we're currently doing relative to what Mike's been talking about. Now, what I do remember, what I do know Mike has been talking about is this. I know he's been drawing like that. So, and I can agree with that. I will say I will agree with that. And I'll give my reasonings. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I know I'm a yibba yabba a lot about details. I'm not going to do that, okay? I promise you. So, what I will say, we do have a support. And this is kind of like a... it's like when you have watched like Gladiator, or you watch some sort of show where they do this really, it's so hyped up, it's crazy, you know, they're gonna jump across to another building and there's this massive drop and they're gonna die if they don't do it. And then realistically, if you actually like look at the behind the scenes, they've got like a massive mat, and if they fall, they're fine. So it's kind of the same idea where it's like, we're on this line, are we gonna hold, are we gonna break, you know, it's really scary. It's not, okay. We do have support, literally, like not that far below us. Not in a just in case scenario, but in a. I'm not worried if we did come down, but I don't think we do. And this is my point. We had this area. Now I'm not going to specifics again. That's not the stream for this. We had this area of buy, basically, I will say. We had lows and we've taken them with this move, and now we're kind of having this bit of an uptick. Again, this is the monthly. This is the monthly. Okay, this is it's just it's not like it's gonna happen in 2 days and we're gonna see it, you know, pump all the way to 116. But I did want to go over some older TA as well with this. So in terms of my opinion on why we came down, we had this area as well. We had this massive move up. We obviously had this previous move. We had this move as well, which we kind of filled as well. We had this main area down here. We've come to fill that. We then formed resistance on the way down, which obviously we then used. Obviously, we came to the midpoint and we kind of came down again, found support back here. We formed resistance, had more resistance, and then we had this kind of this hoverage, if you will, here, which I have marked out with this power of 3, which obviously we came up and then we came down. So this is a massive displacement. So my opinion about this is I believe there will be a bit of resistance within this area. I'm not saying it's going to cause us to continue a massive downtrend and we're going to come all the way down, to 86, but I do think there will be resistance within this area in particular due to the fact that it has come from a position of massive displacement, especially coming from this kind of a slight consolidation. Obviously there has been wicks on either side, but in the general move we can clearly see we've had this kind of hoverage. We had this period where we've come, again the purple area is marked, come to fill this entire area, obviously giving us enough to have a massive move down again. So that's kind of how I'm feeling on the back end of things. Now I do think from this we will see resistance, like as I've already mentioned, especially within this kind of 102 area. Now what I'm going to mark out again now is to the weekly. I might look at the majority of this, but I will kind of talk about it. So we kind of have this going on. Again, this is the weekly now, so it's still a longer time frame. Massive downtrend, massive move here. And I had this drawn, basically a kind of a retracement idea, where I do think we probably might see resistance. So this is the same, basically the same chart we just saw with this massive displacement we had. Same idea, where I do think there's going to be resistance within this 106 area. I don't think it's going to be something which we come up to and we come all the way down, like I already just said, to 85 or anything like that. I do think we probably see resistance. Now again, I'm applying charts, or I'm applying methodology I would use on Bitcoin, for example, on Dixie. So not saying they translate, certain things are very specific and they'll translate, but this is just how I do things. So I will say that I do think there will be retracements upwards, pretty strong, as we can kind of expect globally. I do think on the short time frame we will see resistance, but in general, from what we have seen, I do expect us to continue higher regardless. So I just think this is kind of a temperamental thing, where I do think we retrace into this 106 area, probably see a bit of resistance, but I think on the way up, depending on how we move, we could probably form quite a nice area above us, especially if we can kind of move up in this monthly candle and print above this kind of 100 area. I do definitely think we're going to be forming support on the way up. So I don't think this is a scenario where we've had this kind of consolidation. We've pumped up above to fill the rest of this area, area, and now we're dumping. I just think this is a kind of temperamental consolidation, manipulation, distribution, which is now brought us back down to the support area back here with these candles, form support down here at this midpoint, and now I think we're going to track up a bit. So that's my opinion. I think we're going to go up. 106 is probably a short, not a shorter term, because again, this is the weekly. This is isn't like the 1 hour, the 50-minute. It's going to take a while, but in terms of the short time frame relative to the monthly, it's not technically the short time frame, but you know what I mean. Like in terms of the relatively smaller time frame compared to the monthly, I do think we'll see resistance here. But again, this will take a long time to happen. I think this will take multiple candles to get up to. So I think for the foreseeable future relative, I think it's going to take quite a while to get back up, but I think we will do. So I'm going to try and be a bit quicker now on the rest of the chart. I know I've spent quite a while on that. I'm not, you know what, I'm not even going to talk about it yet. I'm literally just going to tell you what I've drawn, and that's it. And either you believe me or you don't, because I'm going to talk for too long. So, monthly. Okay, we have resistance here. Okay, we had all these highs. We took them, massive dump. We formed these candles, resistance. And this displacement, okay, which we have filled majoritively with this. Again, I know the applicability of what I would normally do on my streams might not translate to a dominance chart. I do understand that, but this is just my way of things, and maybe it's foolish to draw this, but it's just what I have. We have this resistance, this kind of main area of resistance. Again, this is something you have to watch on lower time frames to watch to see if you respect it. Doesn't matter though. We have this. This is just like this is just kind of a general idea if you were above or below a certain threshold to consider coming down again. We ticked up above it at the 50%, and then we start to come down. That's just general. So weekly. One thing I wanted to mark out are all these lows, and I'm not saying there's anything below these. Again, this is dominance. This isn't a actual chart, but hear me out. That's the weekly. Okay, let's jump to the daily now. I know I'm trying to be fast with this. So we had previous areas. I was trying to mark out some previous areas, previous gaps which we came to fill, form lows, and had a pump, gap here, massive pump, took this high, and then came down. Again, uptrend, you take highs, you find support within the last trend. Simple. That's just what it is. We did that, obviously, massive trend. This is the most significant low of this move. We formed this gap here. We came to fill, came to rough midpoint, formed this higher low, and then came up again. Took high, and then had this reverse. You can see this bump, this high bump, this low bump. We formed resistance here, we wicked into it, and then we had a massive dump. Remembering also on the monthly, we had resistance, and we came to an area where we should sell. If we show it, we can see we ticked up above it. We had this formation as well, obviously taking out this high as a continuation. Had a massive, we had this print below this low, as we have seen before, but a significant print below this low, formed this gap, wicked into it, and then obviously we continued downwards pretty, but the difference is, it's not like we're just in a random area. We are in a, not a significant area, but in an area where we should look for sell. I'm not saying this is sell, this is Bitcoin dominance, this is a different thing. I understand. This is just my way of doing things. And then obviously we have had this massive move down. Massive move down. This is pretty difficult news over here, I'm not gonna lie. But again, this makes sense. Again, think about the phases we've had with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, altcoins, altcoin season, all this sort of stuff. We've been taking these lows continuously. Target daily, I did want to talk about this. I think this is a weekly gap. Yep, for this weekly gap, I'm going to actually hide some of this though, especially with this and this. So again, same idea with move up and then retracements. We're not at that main mark yet to start to look at a move back upwards. And again, this is the thing. It's like this is a arbitrary thing where it's not so much of a, we're going to buy back here. It's dominance. It's more of a thing where this is a continuation in the market where things are starting to move away from Bitcoin and coming to different coins. So this is kind of a different concept, but it's the same thing where I think we continue downwards at least into some of these areas, and this will take into quite a while, quite a few months for this to happen, I do believe. Again, this has been a massive candle. I don't think we're going to have the same speed we've had, especially within this week, in this start of Monday, basically last week. I don't think we're going to have the same speed, but I do definitely think we're going to have this continuous downtick into these areas, coming down towards maybe 55% and whatnot. Again, again, this is arbitrary. This is something you do differently. I've said this plenty of time. This is it's maybe not applicable to dominance, but I'm going to do it anyway. This definitely comes into this area about 58%. Obviously, you have something lower down here, which sits pretty much exactly in this 56% area. So I do definitely think we're going to continue to move down in Bitcoin dominance. as we're already doing. Again, it's kind of I'm not, what I'm saying right now, isn't, I don't think it's crazy. We've had this reversal at the top we saw on the lower time frames. We're at that 50% mark on the monthly, and it's kind of a logical conceptual area where, okay, cool, we've hit a significant area where we should start to retrace from, or look to see if we retrace. And obviously, as we saw on, I believe it was already on this, oh no, it was on daily, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, we obviously saw this move with obviously continuing upwards, took the high continuously, again, makes sense. But then obviously we printed below this low and then retraced into this a bit of a resistance area, and then obviously we continued downwards. But again, it's not, applicable, but whatever. It's kind of applicable. And then obviously continuing from that, like I've already talked about, that was our reversal, and continuing down, taking all these lows as we continue. But not saying there's something to take there, because again, it's dominance, but the conceptual point is, regardless of if you agree or not, is we continue downwards. Opinion. Let's continue. I'm trying to aim for about 30 minutes left to continue to the articles. We've got about 5-ish minutes, so I'm going to be even quicker now, or try to anyway. Let's group this quickly. I can talk about it on the monthly. So this is the crypto's total market cap. So monthly. So this was kind of the old TA. Just looking at it on a previous, just looking at it on the previous level. So this has kind of been the entire move of the total market cap of crypto since like the end of 2020 coming into 2021. We've had these moves up. We've had this resistance we formed from this significant, the last high before the down move. Obviously had this move down into this area, filled into basically the midpoint, pretty much exactly. Came up towards, we didn't respect this. We just came to this resistance area, forming all this support on the way up. Used it, and again, we're just now in uptrend. I'm just marking out uptrend, basically taking out the highs, coming into support on the way down. It's a pretty what's the word for it? Logical, not logical. It's step by step. I'm using the wrong words here, but it's a very kind of step by step process. Same thing here. Took this high, filled this area pretty much exactly, and now we're up again. So again, same idea. We're moving up. We've taken this high, and I think we can continue this. I'm not saying, oh yeah, we've come a tiny bit up above this high, and we're going to dump now. Again, applicability of this arguable. It is total market cap rather than an actual pair like Bitcoin USDT. So I'm not saying this is fully applicable, but it's just my way of doing things. So I think we can continue above higher than this. So again, heyday for crypto. Heyday for crypto. And again, this is the monthly. So this is going to take maybe a candle to, we might hover a bit for 2 candles. And again, this takes us into, towards September time, October time, potentially, in theory. So I think we're continuing up above this. We found support. So again, we formed our support. As we continue upwards, and until we print a down close candle, we're going to have this entire area of support as well, which upticks higher. So I think, and I'm not saying we're going to see support at this $3 trillion area, but I think as we continue upwards, the higher and higher we go, the higher and higher the support point will be. So I just think the general kind of takeaway of looking at total market cap right now is we're in the heyday, we're continuing upwards, we're in a really good situation for the total market cap for crypto, and I'm very happy, and I think we can continue to move a tiny bit higher and just stay in this high point area for the total market cap. So that's my opinion. Really quick here, not trying to talk too much. I think this is some lower time frame TA. Again, this is kind of the same area of as we continue upwards. This is a thing where we follow the high. This isn't a thing of we're going to see resistance at 4 trillion, but just kind of the general idea of, I think as we continue to move upwards, especially with this move, we're going to see support on the way up. So, it's just great. That's a good thing, to translate. Now, again, I've got a minute and a half. I'm going to be just as quick as I tried to be. I'm trying to aim for 30 minutes. After I finish this, I'm going to look at the chat. So this is Ethereum Bitcoin pair. Now, this I think is very important to look at now as we are potentially moving into this kind of phase 2 period where we're moving away from Bitcoin into Ethereum and then so on and so forth as we move on to larger cap kind of altcoins and then start to move into these, Hoktua, crap coins eventually down the line anyway, and then all these people who are crying about how meme coins are not worth it anymore are going to give it however long this is going to take, give it not too long, and they're going to start saying meme coins are the best thing to invest in because they don't understand the process of phases, as we've already talked about. Can you please look at in your tech look? What I'll do, I'll look at I'll try do it I'm going to go through the articles. I'll be quick and I'll go through at the end because obviously I don't know how long I'm going to take to draw the chart and stuff like that. So I will try and look at But again, I'm going to read the whole chat in a second after I finish this. So, monthly previous, I'm going to look at the monthly. So this is kind of the same concept we kind of already been looking at in terms of coming from the high to the low and then ticking on upwards. Obviously, seeing some resistance in this area. Obviously, we had support. It's the same thing. It's like we saw resistance here. We had this whole area here. Lower time frame, reversal, boom, continuing upwards. And again, now we're starting to get into this area here is the important area. That's all you need to remember. Obviously, still coming up into these areas. Found this last point here on the lower time frame is resistance, or in terms of this specific on the monthly is a rejection block. Obviously we found support, we continued down, came deeper into this area, basically to the midpoint, obviously forming lows, came up, found resistance again, lower high. Same thing here in terms of this kind of general area of we have this move up, we take these highs, and then when we fail to do the next swing upwards, that's when you want to start to look for if we start to come below this. And again, in this case, you can see like we come up, we find support, kind of, we come up, we come, do this high, come up, come down again, and then we print past this. This is when you want to start to watch for, okay, cool, we're starting to come down now, we've printed past this low, we could, if we continue this trend, we're probably continuing into a downtrend on this chart. And again, this is more applicable because again, this is technically a pair you can trade fully. This is Ethereum Bitcoin, so technically you can go ahead and trade this on. I don't know what platforms provide these sorts of pairs. I know it's basically standard for USDT and then X pair, Ethereum, Bitcoin, whatever. But I do believe, there's probably at least some platforms out there. I mean, this is Binance, to be fair, so you can probably trade, you can definitely trade this. So this is more applicable, as you've been talking about. I'm ticking over by a minute and a half now. I'm going to be very quick. Taking the low, confirming downtrend, coming down. Now we're starting to tick up, and again, thinking about, this is probably a very easy chart to talk about, because again, this isn't something where I'm looking at the specific resistance and supports. This is something we can conceptually think about because of what's going on in the market. Again, we've already looked at the phases. Phase 1, Bitcoin, massive pump, retracements. This money flow moves into Ethereum now. So the logical idea now, I could do no TA on this and still say I think Ethereum's going to continue to go up relative to Bitcoin, because as Bitcoin moves down, money flows into Ethereum. It is stronger relative to Bitcoin. We move up. This moves up. It's that simple. And again, this is the monthly, so it's a bit of a longer thing. I'm going to the monthly now. Same idea. Retracement. I think this is going to go up continuously. Again, we can think phase 2 now. So I do think this is the low. I don't think we have to trail it anymore. So if we look at this, we should hopefully start to have a massive move up for this for Ethereum Bitcoin. Again, as Bitcoin continues to move down, and on the longer time frame, me, what I've been talking about. We've got these 114 areas. We've got 90k on that weekly time frame. Monthly, we had that 90k, which was obviously we haven't quite hit yet, or not. We haven't, had sign of showing down there. We haven't seen that low yet, but obviously, I'm saying, like, I still think there's potential for it. But continuing upwards, we do have some of this resistance here. We have some, all these consistent highs. I do definitely think we're going to see massive resistance here. But again, on the way up as well, we're going to see resistance. Again, we have this area. But the logical thing is to come into this area, but not saying we can't see resistance, in this area or into this. Into this area. Obviously there's some highs here into this area. I'm not saying we can't do that, but just a conceptual, we should realistically aim for a bit higher towards 0.06, which is obviously some quite high targets. And again, this is on the monthly, so as Ethereum wants to aim for all-time highs, let's say during the monthly time frame, this will only go up and up and up. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think this is crazy to say. As Bitcoin continues to retrace, as we've seen our highs, as we're coming to find some buy areas, I think Ethereum, as we tick upwards, and on the monthly scale, continue to try and aim for highs for Ethereum, coming above and trying to find all-time highs. I think this will go up and up and up. So really quickly look at the daily before we move on to articles. What do I have here? We had a little phase here which entered us into this massive uptrend, which took out this high, massive downtrend. We had this hover. It's very similar to how Bitcoin had. And I thought about this when I was doing the charts last night. I thought how, same thing of the phases. And I was going to talk, before we had this tweet about the phases, I was going to talk about the phases in the fact that Bitcoin had the same thing. And I posted this in the Telegram. I posted the power of 3 we had, the consolidation, the manipulation below the low, and this massive pump, taking out this high, forming us into this uptrend. We had the same thing on Bitcoin. I don't know when I posted it, where before we had the pump, during, I think it was on the 50-minute I was looking at. Obviously, this is the daily. We had the same thing. And again, this obviously marks back quite a while, to be fair. But in terms of the idea that this started us into the longer-term uptrend. And I'm not saying, because again, this was the main pump for now. So I'm not saying this is the start, because again, this is back in April. But what I'm saying is, we were still in this downtrend, but this was the setup. We had the pump up, massive pump, massive displacement, retracement to the midpoint to fill some of this buy, because obviously just massive amount of orders coming in. Fill the buy to the midpoint, and then we pump again, taking out the highs into the uptrend. So it's the same concept with Bitcoin, but obviously Bitcoin was relative to like now, basically. But this is kind of the setup of this kind of power free. Obviously, we were in this massive downtrend. We had this really significant consolidation. Then we came below slow manipulation, massive pump in Ethereum, or Ethereum relative to Bitcoin. And again, I know this is May. I know this isn't right now, but this was the setup for the uptrend is what I want to talk about. So we're taking these highs, and again, idea of an uptrend, you take highs, you find support within what you've moved in. So take high. I think we continue for Ethereum. We could probably retrace a bit to find support, but I definitely think we can at least aim for this high for sure. So just the same idea, same concept we've been talking about. I think we're continuing upwards into this uptrend. I just realistically wanted to talk about this point. And I think we're in this uptrend for Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Ethereum, Bitcoin, sorry. And I think we're continuing upwards. And I think Ethereum is going to see massive highs. Okay, not bad. 5 minutes over. That's it for me. I'm done on the charts, okay? I can now move on to the first article. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the first article up. I'm going to talk really fast about this. This is kind of a general talk about... let me go move that down. General talk about Ethereum and what it's been targeting at and what my opinions are. I'm going to read the chat now, though, and see what people are saying. So good morning to you, Source Guy. Quite a long time. I'm very well, thank you. Hopefully you are doing well as well. I will try to look at in a bit. I'm gonna speed past these articles. I'm gonna give the critical information or my critical. I'm not saying my opinions are critical, but I'm gonna give my opinions anyway. But oh yeah, you caught me. I'm just about. Again, 24 minutes, and I know how I talk. Okay, I know I talk a lot, so you know what I mean. We'll be interested in Oracle's strategy for the end of the bull run. Are you selling all your SOL or keeping any back? You know what? That's a really good idea. I remember I did that. I did that for December to January, or basically coming into 2025. And you know what? That has actually been it was a really good thing to look at that, because obviously you've been on my chart streams. I have talked about things I talked about back in December time in terms of my highs. I was talking about 125k. Obviously, KB can vouch for me here. I was talking about it back in December time. I think it was on a stream. I should probably go clip it and all that sort of stuff. I need to start clipping my streams and posting them. You know what I'm saying? But so I can actually post it and you guys can see it. Because I know a lot of you, and I completely understand, you don't want to sit through an hour at 9 p.m. at night or 10 p.m. or whatever time it is, me yabbing on about things which just don't make sense. I need to clip them and make them concise, but whatever, different point. I will try to do that. That's a really good idea. Maybe I could do it in a stream and make a video out of it or something like that. But I'll try to do that because, again, I did that, again, like I said, I already did that back in December 4, 2025, and it's actually been really useful to look back at that and see how it's been playing out. Especially Bitcoin, I think it was 123, 125k. Obviously, on one of my streams, I did talk about the same price target. So, yeah, that'll be a good idea. I will try to do that. Obviously, with the SOL strategies as well. So, jumping onto articles again. I'm not going to talk about the whole thing. I'm probably going to look at the brief and just give opinions. Okay, here we go. Ethereum eyes 4K as whales, and ETFs pour billions into the market. So, in brief, Ethereum whales have acquired over $260 million in ETH throughout the weekend, according to on-chain data. Spot Ethereum ETFs have also seen back-to-back record inflows, adding $2.2 billion in just 5 days of trading. This bullish momentum has pushed ETH to a 6-month high of 3,710, obviously a bit higher now, and a market cap exceeding $450 billion. So, pretty great. So, again, the general idea was just to look at, there's been so much buy. I mean, this is just like a no-brainer. I mean, this is just to point out how positive Ethereum's been. If you've looked at CoinMarketCap once in the last however many days it's been, you will see, obviously, how positive Ethereum has been so far. And you can see all these just massive buys for Ethereum across the board, whether it be not institutional, but more institutional buy versus obviously just like general people's sentiment in total has just been completely positive on Ethereum, as we've seen obviously with the phases. So now jumping quickly over, I wanted to talk about this. Now, I'm obviously a chart guy. I do want to talk about predictions because I can talk a bit better. I understand, and I can definitely talk about some more fundamental things, but again, this is Mike's area to a T. So again, I will obviously talk about that as we go on to the next article after this, but I did want to talk more about predictions and what I feel about Ethereum anyway. So we have this Elliott wave. Now, again, I don't look at Elliott waves. I did do standard deviations, which have worked pretty well so far. I did standard deviations for Bitcoin, which gave us 123 to 127. We hit 125, I think midpoint of it, which is pretty good. So I should probably do that for Ethereum, actually. As we're getting close to highs and taking out high, I should probably look at this. I'll try to do this in my next, and tomorrow's stream, actually. I should probably do this. But basically, the idea of this Elliott wave is that we should, in theory, see... Where is the it was 10k, I'm pretty sure, but see, I'm not going to go into all this because I don't really care about how it actually works. Basically, the prediction is a price move that could push Ethereum to the $10,000 mark based on a broader Elliott wave analysis on the Ethereum bull market stretching from 2019 to date. So basically, he's using all this history. Basically, I think it's the DGIA hourly thing, whatever, but he's using it on the monthly, whatever this is going to be. What is this chart? Oh, there we go, free fund, okay. So basically, it spans back all the way from 2019, and apparently this move is supposed to bring us a move sitting at about $10,000. Now, opinions on this, based on standard deviation, I could potentially see this. Again, the general area is going to be the above into the 2 and a 2.5 area. So I don't know if this sits exactly at 10k. It would be nice if we saw 10k, absolutely. And you know what? Learning from crypto, and learning from these periods of having these, just these massive moves and things moving higher than you expect and things moving lower than you expect. I will never say never with Ethereum. I'll never say never with some of this. It's one of those things. But with this, again, I want to go into more detail on this tomorrow's afternoon stream, because that's more of the chart stream where I can actually talk in a bit more detail. So I probably will actually look at the chart with standard deviations and whatnot on Ethereum. But what I will say is about this, I will never say never. I think, for me, 10k, I could be wrong this. I want to see the actual standard deviation. I don't know if this sits pretty high for me. Again, this is my opinion anyway. And I'm not someone who looks at Elliott waves, so this might be correct based on what I can look at. But I think 10k, it could be, considering what time frame we have. And again, obviously, everything across the board is pretty high. But I think... there's only, if we consider how long we've spent going up with Bitcoin, obviously the magnitude's been pretty high, but we've spent a decent while. But I don't know if the magnitude between where we were sitting at, because again, with Bitcoin, I don't think I don't think we really hit near the sub 100k area before we hit 125k. So it was a pretty good move up, but I don't think that's relative to what we've had for Ethereum so far. And again, that is on the shorter time frame, and we're going to spend a few more, quite a while. Depending on whenever it ends, it should be November 2025, whatever the time frame is going to be. So we should spend a bit longer going up. I'm not saying it's going to happen in a week and that's the bull run. So it's over, guys. We've hit 5k and that's it. That's the high for Ethereum. But I think obviously time will tell. Never say never. I don't know if this is going to be too high. But I just wanted to point out what some people are seeing for Ethereum in terms of a 10k high, and seeing what you guys think about that as well. But I don't know. I'm going to look at it obviously tomorrow. And give a bit more detail on this, but I don't know about Elliott waves. I'm not gonna look at it. I'm gonna look at it in my own opinion, but I don't know if that's too a bit high. I'm going to obviously look at it because again, we've seen this before. I remember reading articles saying Solana's gonna hit 2k and things like that. And the thing is, right, it wasn't 2k in this many years. It was like 2k in this bull run, which was like quite a while ago, or 2k in this period. And again, we're at like $190. It's like, are we going to see this massive move? And consider the market cap, and consider these arbitrary or these data points, which obviously have a decent effect. If you think fundamentally, it's like, okay, it will take more and more money and take more and more input into Ethereum to see these upticks. If you're on a lower cap coin, the massive candles you can have, the massive displacements, you have these massive percentage moves upwards, is a lot easier to do rather than Ethereum and Solana. So obviously, I'm not saying we're hitting max cap, but it's kind of an exponential where you hit kind of this efficiency point where it's like it's not efficient anymore to see these highs. It's going to take more and more money, and if that money doesn't come into Ethereum, doesn't come into these higher cap coins, then you're not actually going to see much more of a move up above from where you are right now, unless you see these moves. And I think for Bitcoin, that is easily done because Bitcoin's kind of the main dog. But with certain other coins, maybe even Solana, are we realistically going to see that amount of money which is needed to bring us to that 2k value, which is like 10 times more than what we've got right now? Are we realistically going to see that 10-time valuation in the market cap? I'm not sure about that. So that's why I'm saying with Ethereum, I'm tempering expectations for that 10k. I will obviously look at it, but realistically, if we consider what we're at right now, it will require a lot more of a move up to actually do that. So let's move quickly on. Again, I know I've got a few articles, so I'm gonna go a bit quickly over this. We've got 16 minutes, and if I'm gonna try and look at on quickly, maybe when we hit the hour mark, I'll look at it. Maybe try to do five minutes on it. I can probably do it quite quickly. Might be a rough sketch. What I can do is probably do it in a bit more detail tomorrow and actually go over it as a segment. But anyway, I want to talk about this. So hopefully, actually, I should read the titles out. So we had crazy. Okay, I'm trying to do these. I think Mike, has his names. Obviously, I remember, we like our names. Obviously, we like our phone names. So I wrote this one out. Okay. Now, I wrote this last night, and I thought, oh, this is really smart. Pledge the thief. Pledge the fifth. But then I remembered, I think it's plead the fifth, so it's not pledge. So it's a bit of a shot. Quite far away. It's a bit of a stretch, but pledge the thief. Thought it'd be funny. So there you go. So the actual article we're looking at. BlackRock's Ethereum Trust sparks SEC approval debate. I'm going to go over this so fast right now. BlackRock adds pledge option to Ethereum Trust, stirring SEC debate, which is basically a collateral system. VanEck others advocate first in approval process. New ETF filings might impact Ethereum market dynamics. Obviously, just complete positivity as we're seeing with this phase 2 of Ethereum as we move from Bitcoin to Ethereum. So I want to read the maybe the first articles, just get a general idea of, especially with BlackRock's kind of movements with what's going on with Ethereum, which is BlackRock's newest decision to incorporate a pledge option into its iShares Ethereum Trust has spurred discussions. This decision reflects BlackRock's leadership in digital assets as it heads operations. It also draws attention to the SEC's ongoing approval mechanism and how this affects other Ethereum Trust applicants, including VanEck and 21 Shares. So basically, it's kind of forefronting the idea that there's going to be kind of a solid ground for Ethereum to continue in its growth for the kind of the institutional area, the proper men in suit area, especially with this pledge option, which I believe is a collateral system with Ethereum relating to Ethereum. This is a quote though. Staking is not done. There are plenty of ETH staking ETF filings already on the books. Final deadline for earlier filings is in late October. The BlackRock filing today won't have a final deadline until around April 2026, but we think staking will likely be approved by at least Q4 2025. So again, it will take some time to happen, but this is still good news. And again, this is the thing, we see this all the time, especially when it comes to institutional systems to allow people to actually officially on the books, not necessarily directly invest in obviously things like Bitcoin, but invest in a way of including Bitcoin, obviously with institutional buying of Bitcoin, which allows them to actually have a representative at a premium discount to buy these holdings of Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever. So the idea that oh no, I've lost my train of thought. There we go. If we think back to when these have happened before in relating to different coins, until we saw the actual official happening, and again, this is the phrase, obviously, buy the rumor, sell the news. It happens all over the globe, depending on whatever the news article is, whether it's just normal markets, any news data point. It's always buy the rumor, sell the news. It's always that. So again, this is the same thing I want to talk about in terms of continuous positivity in the idea for continuation in the development of the institutional aspect of Ethereum. I'm not saying this is going to be the official, oh yeah, this is the biggest thing to happen to Ethereum, but I think the general idea of there continuously being more talks about Ethereum, developing its roots into institutional across the board, I think will continue to allow Ethereum to move upwards and continue to be bought again by rumor, sell, news, all this sort of stuff, and continue to grow until things again filings actually go through. Until then, I think the speculation of buying that until it actually happens, and obviously probably a bit of sell-off, it happens every time though. So I think the general idea is, and this is again April 2026, Q4 2025, this will take a long time to happen. So it's not just a week of buying, it will take a continuous amount of Ethereum, basically Ethereum being bought, which obviously ties into the idea of what we have with phase 2 and Ethereum, the inflow of money being brought into Ethereum rather than obviously Bitcoin in this case, and eventually moving that into Solana and altcoins, and then eventually, hock to a 360 spin crap coins, So, next article, Just Retire. So, fed up with the daily grind, Bitcoin researcher says you can retire with less than 1 Bitcoin. So, are you planning your retirement? According to a new analyst, you can retire with less than 1 Bitcoin to quit the 9 to 5 by 2035 in many countries. So, there's a little graph down here. So, retire with less than 1 Bitcoin. So, there's different countries depending on what Bitcoin's needed per country. I think basically the idea is obviously Bitcoin, the valuation, if we relate it to a dollar, again, is a very highly valued asset. So if we look at some of the other countries with they have a lower not a propensity. There's another word it begins with P. Basically the comparison between what you can buy Western and then what you can buy in these local areas where they have a weakened currency system or a not as strong currency system. So basically the idea is as you go further, obviously some of these countries are very their valuation, again, Switzerland, you know, these places are very expensive and very the valuation, I'm not sure the exact terminology to use, but basically the currency system is a lot stronger, basically, than if you compare it to, you know, Burundi, let's say, or Pakistan, obviously looking down there. So basically the idea is, the way this chart works, the way I read it last night was, because I thought it was based on age. I read this part, and it was a very like different chart. Obviously, trying to read the keynotes of it, and it's like, oh wait, so as you're older, because again, I looked at, for some reason I read this as age. So the younger you are, the more Bitcoin you need. Doesn't make sense. As Bitcoin increases its value, you probably need less relative to now, whatever. But basically, it's actually not based on that. It's based on country. So obviously, as we go down the list where you need less value, if you relate it to a dollar anyway, let's just relate to a dollar. You need less dollars to be considered wealthy and able to retire in these certain countries. So it goes as low. Again, obviously, if you go to, you know, Japan, America, for example, America case, obviously the younger you go, and obviously in this case, it's like, okay, well, you'd think, obviously, as it values right now, as inflation continues, again, obviously this is inflation adjusted, so as you need more and more money to continue to have the strength you would have today, it makes sense to say, as I believe this might be Bitcoined, I don't know if this is Bitcoin price right now, and this is the thing which is murky. I might be stupid, I might not be reading this properly, but maybe it's valued as Bitcoin now. So if you value Bitcoin now, but then consider inflation, you will need more Bitcoin due to the fact that the valuation of the dollar and pretty much everything across the board recedes. So you need more. So if you consider it right now, it's like basically you're 75, you might die pretty much right now. You might die soon, whatever. You need basically the current Bitcoin price, if you will. So some of these areas, especially with United States, and again, you're getting very close to retirement. You need, you know, within one Bitcoin. And again, a lot of these, it's like, okay, cool. In theory, this should be the midpoint at about 5, and you need about 5 in some of these areas. So again, but if you really relate it to, you know, America, which obviously the state of the Western world, it's America or it's nothing. It's basically around 1 Bitcoin. It's about 1 Bitcoin. And, you know, if you jump between these, in theory, each one of these points, and again, it's a bit murky here, because it's like, okay, well, 1 to 0.1, this should be, you know, 0.5, but then you have all these ticks getting 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. So realistically, it's within 5 Bitcoin or less. So this midpoint will be maybe like 2.5, and then you need about 2 to 1 Bitcoin. So again, I'm talking a lot about this, actually. I'm not going to talk about this, I don't care. But the idea is you need maybe 1 Bitcoin or less, depending on obviously where you are. You need around 1 Bitcoin to retire by 2025. So, happy days, you know? Happy days. I'm going to move on now, because, do you know what I mean? So, UK takes a big dump. So, on the idea of Bitcoin, obviously we're talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin, or Bitcoin being dumped by UK in theory, as UK may sell £5 billion worth of Bitcoin haul to fill budget gap. There's a gap in the budget, as there always seems to be. You know, oh, print more money, there's a gap in the budget. Oh, we spent this money, where's the money gone? Oh, we don't know. UK plans to sell $5 billion, or £5 billion worth of Bitcoin, which is from a seizure of 61,000 Bitcoin from Chinese Ponzi scheme in 2018. Happens all the time. There's a whole system in the UK. Basically, the way it works is Chinese students come from China, from wealthy countries. They want to move their money out of China, and they basically get their children to kind of scout it out in property or in business. Obviously, in this case, it's a Ponzi scheme. Basically, obviously, in China, it's very tax-rich mentality. In terms of it's very strict. In terms of, obviously, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I know basically it's very hard to be rich in China without there being massive tax or pledges to the government. So I know one of the very big systems that the Chinese do is they send over their students from China, from these wealthy families, to scout out retail not retail, you know, buildings, you know, buying property or buying business. Obviously, in this case, a Ponzi scheme. In this case, obviously, it was just to profit from a Ponzi scheme. But I do know they have their systems where they bring over people to scout out, to purchase things, and move their wealth into places like UK. So the Genius Act boosts Bitcoin price. UK prepares crypto sale from home framework plan. So obviously, they're trying to wait until we hit the top and sell. Obviously, they probably need to watch my streams. Obviously, we always talk about 125k. They want to watch my streams if you want to see the price. So that's what I'd recommend. The one thing I'd take away from this article, not that they're selling £5 billion, but is what I would say is we need a pledge for someone in the UK government to come and watch the trading streams so that they actually see when the actual high is for Bitcoin. So that's what I would say. But the UK government may soon sell a huge amount of Bitcoin. UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves is considering selling over £5 billion worth of Bitcoin that police seized in past years. This step may aid in filling a widening budget deficit and raising badly needed revenue into the treasury. That's basically it, really. I mean, I would say with the UK, I hope they sell it appropriately. You know, again, obviously there's always be, as we see highs and highs, there's always be profit taking. I just hope they do it. And again, this is the thing. It's like they're gonna have to do this OTC. You know, so it's not gonna have that major effect as places continue to. I'm gonna need some more actually. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. As as there's more sorry, hold on. Let me bring the article back up. There we go. So obviously, over-the-counter stuff, you know, these massive centralized points where they can actually go buy these mass amount and they won't affect the market too badly. I think that obviously, I believe there's been many charts and many talks about them running out of Bitcoin. So the idea that there's going to be, there's going to need to be this allocation of this amount of Bitcoin to actually be able to fulfill this. I'm not exactly sure on the exact value of the global kind of valuation of over-the-counter purchases where they're actually able to buy this amount of Bitcoin or sell this amount of Bitcoin. Obviously, in this case, probably be a deficit to obviously make some profit on this sort of stuff or a discount. But I believe they probably will. It probably might be even good news depending on the actual valuation of how much Bitcoin they can actually sell, where they'll actually get their money's worth. So I think, you know, this is probably a decently good thing. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think it's you know, obviously Bitcoin being sold is obviously never a good thing. But I think in the way that they'd have to sell it, in terms of the fact that they're going to need to actually purchase it through a official source, and they're not going to go on some random system where they're just going to buy it straight off the market. Boom, there you go. They're going to fulfill all these sell orders, and there you go. Or they're going to fill all these buy orders, and you know what I mean. They're going to have to go less and less, obviously, as the order book fulfills higher and higher orders. In this case, you have to buy at the premium, and the price will go down. You know what I'm saying? But I think there's going to have to be more and more buy for Bitcoin to fulfill this order. So, you know what I'm saying? Try and put a positive spin on things. But you know, UK are dumping Bitcoin. It's sad. It's sad. But they need the money. You know, there's doctors need paying. You know, doctors need paying. Anyway. Let's go to the next article. You know what? I think I've clutched up. You know, I've got about 2.5 minutes maybe left. I think I'm clutching up the articles. I'm getting close to that 1 hour. You know what? I will say I'm doing pretty well. So the second last article before we move on to vibe coding, which I'll obviously talk about, is I don't know why the website looks like this. I don't remember it looking this bad. Well, you know, it's an article, regardless. September to issue USDT in US after Genius Act signed. So, footnotes, or head notes, if you will. Tether gets green light to issue a USDT in United States market. What do you do? Genius Act lets Tether mint coins legally under foreign issuer rule. Circle defense lead saying audits prove trust amid stablecoin market rivalry. So the kind of general idea, Tether will soon start issuing USDT inside the United States. This change comes after President Donald Trump signed a new Genius Act on Friday. This legislation will be an initial major move in America towards the national regulation of stablecoins. It will provide the stablecoin firms with a simpler environment that will enable them to abide by clear guidelines. Great, and this is the thing. It's like, read block notes on. Excuse me. There we go. So, I mean, this is, we've talked about this ages ago as well. It's the idea of the latency in obviously America or the UK, not so much the UK, but especially America, in terms of setting out these guidelines and being a place where crypto can thrive, is definitely obviously being pushed with obviously a lot of these guidelines and a lot of these kind of rulings which allow people to actually do things legally in America and continue to provide different sectors of crypto within American kind of participants, obviously by pushing from Donald Trump and other segments of the government. It's like, okay, we've had plenty of places which have tried to be the central point of crypto. And I think my opinion is I think these places obviously have tried to kind of fill the void in the gap in the market where there needs to be a central point where these either crypto companies or crypto official areas can actually go and be legally allowed to continue to operate their business kind of semi-globally, obviously barring certain guidelines from America. Let's say obviously certain places can't be operated in America or certain other countries, but I think the idea is these countries obviously push for these companies to go be there, so obviously they can get that they tax them or whatever, obviously try and get the lowest tax so they have the most opportunity of crypto businesses moving there to actually operate out of, and then obviously tax them a certain amount of money where there's going to be incredible amount of money being brought into the government. But I think America's always going to be that main area. You know, I think there's certain other areas in the world where there's always going to be that hub of business. And I think America's definitely one of them top dogs. So I think the idea that maybe, and this is my opinion, I don't know this fully, but I think America's always going to be that one-stop shop where companies want to operate out of. Again, I think there's always business licenses and stuff like that which operate out of these small islands where they can set up a shell company where they can finesse tax, and all the profits and operations get put through this one place in this random island in some like area in the world where there's like not a lot of tax or there's not a lot of regulation, and they can do what they want, but they operate it, and they have like I think there was one on an island, there's like an office kind of system where they could literally just rent out an office and operate through Ireland, let's say. And obviously there's certain other places, but obviously not talking about that. But I still think America is the main market. You obviously there's main Asian areas you want to focus on for business, and then there's America. So this is huge for pretty much obviously in this case it's a stablecoin. It's not just a stablecoin based act. Obviously, the Genius Act, it obviously helps crypto as a whole. So I think this doesn't just help stablecoins. I think it kind of has a knock-on effect to help a lot of just crypto companies and currencies, obviously, actually operate within America and continue to provide these systems in America. So I think this is great. Obviously, just wanted to point this out as well as a good step for crypto. So the last thing, I know I'm 2 minutes over now. I've tried my very hardest to not yap and not be awfully over time. I think we're doing pretty well. Obviously, considering I have had my 30-minute overruns on my training streams, I think this is pretty reasonable for me. So the last article, which isn't, it's not something I'm going to discuss for 10 years, just something I wanted to have a little talk about, because again, it's obviously related to blockchain and crypto, but it's a bit more of a discussional outside of the charts and outside of fundamentals, is vibe coding. And again, this name isn't really oh look, it's USD Team USA, all this sort of stuff. It's kind of just a general idea of my opinion on AI in the education system. So AI and blockchain are already disrupting legacy education systems. Projects across multiple educational sectors are leveraging AI and blockchain to provide more accessible alternatives to students. So, artificial intelligence and blockchain are disrupting. Whatever. We've just read that. So, online educator from founder of Future-Proof Music School, an online school that teaches students electronic music production, currently uses an AI assistant to help structure and supplement courses to its students. So, it's kind of the idea of, and this one as well, very important. Blockchain technology enables anyone to validate claims about an individual or institution, including their characteristics and qualifications, and to do this instantly with very high level of certainty. Basically, the idea of people can just learn, and this is the thing. It's like the amount of people. Obviously, I watch things in let's say the programming software development space, and people getting jobs there, and the amount of people who just say, "Oh yeah, just lie. Just say you've got experience from closed companies or experience from different projects which you have been consulting work or what's the word for it? Like contract work, and for example, and these apps have closed down or these companies have closed down, and there's no one to actually confirm this, but you just write it, and 7 times out of 10 people go, okay, cool, yeah, he's got the experience, let's say, and you just lie. And what are they going to do about it? It's like if you go, oh yeah, well, I was working with David over there, but he closed his account, he closed his business and all this sort of stuff, so there's no one to actually confirm it. But trust me, I've worked for him for like 5 years, so obviously you might need certain evidence of this, but you could probably just get away with lying on your CV. So this obviously helps tremendously with that. I think certain industries, obviously my opinion anyway. I think it's to get into that industry. I think there's certain industries are very strict in what you require to actually enter that. And I think the guidelines of what you need to enter into that job versus what you actually need to know to enter that job are very have a very big disparity. So obviously, for example, software dev, there's certain jobs out there where it's a junior position. This is my previous experience anyway, just from what I know firsthand. You need 5 years of experience in a certain thing, let's say. And it's a junior position. How are you going to get 5 years of experience in a junior position? So I think there's certain industries where there's a definite disparity between what you need to know to get the job versus what you actually need to know to get the job. So I think this is good for a lot of industries where you want proof that someone's actually done something, and it obviously helps the employer and the companies. But I think in certain areas of work, depending on what it is, I think this might, I think it's a bit hard. It makes things a bit harder to do, to enter into. Obviously, that's my opinion. Now, what I'm going to say on this, I think, and this is kind of open to the floor. I know we're going over 5 minutes, but I'm not going to spend too long on this. I think what my opinions are on AI in, on education, or in the education system, obviously the legacy education system. It's been around for ages, and I think it's kind of just, education system is just a guideline to try and push someone into a singular kind of operational unit where they can go off in this area. You never learn about another topic. You kind of just choose what you want to do when you're, I think, how many years is GCSE, let's say. You kind of finish them at 16, and then you enter into A-levels for 2 years-ish, 2 or 3 years, yeah. So it's like year 12 to year 13, and then you do A-levels about 18, 19 kind of age. Obviously 16, you finish your GCSE, so you start on maybe, I think, 2 years before as well, I think it is, or maybe something like that. So that might be 14, I think it maybe is. So I don't know the exact age, but you're basically choosing your life and the path you want to go, and you're trying to... You're living your life through the assumptions you had when you were 14 and the career you might have had. And there's so many people who are miserable in their job. And it's like, obviously people say, oh, you find a job you love. And I'm not saying people can't pivot their jobs, but in a ever-growing, hostile, financial situation that the world, that especially the Western world is in anyway, where it's very hard to have leeway, where you can't just not earn money, especially if you're living on your lonesome. It's in a scenario where it's very hard to have that pivot when you have to consider, especially if you it depends on obviously when you have kids and then try and get a relationship and all that sort of stuff, and obviously when depending on where you live and all sorts of things. But it's like the more and more you continue to develop your life and continue to be a adult with all these adult things, harder it is to pivot. It's very hard to pivot unless you're doing something very easy, or where there's a massive void in the market, and where there's where there's a very rare situation where there's a lot of employers who want people. We had this with the programming market, where people could go and spend 6 months in a boot camp and go get a job for earning 100 grand, because there's a massive void in the market for people to want to go work these jobs, and people just not being there to work it. And then a massive influx of people working in this field, and now all of a sudden you're getting junior development positions which need 5 years of experience, and you need to know all these certain technologies, and it's impossible to go get a junior level job if you've just got a degree and maybe 1 or 2 internships. So it's a very aggressive market, especially when, and I have friends firsthand in university who are doing the exact same thing, and it's very sad to see where and this is why I call it vibe coding. I know I'm yapping, I know we've gone over 8 minutes, I do apologize, but I like talking, okay? It's just, I don't know, my words come out, I go, haha, words come out, whatever. Where basically they don't actually know what they're doing. I'm not saying, no, my friends know what they're doing. I talk to my friends who are doing computer science in university, and I didn't say that they're not, but they've got friends, for example, and I'm not saying you can't use AI for certain things. I think it's the way you use it. I think this ties back into the educational system, because I'm sure there's going to be certain facilities out there who just dump everything onto the AI, and they don't really need teachers and all this sort of stuff. And then they make the system where it's not so much about learning. I think it's the way you use AI. It's not. It's I think the way I use AI anyway. So I don't use it a lot in when I make stuff like certain apps, or whatever. But I think it's either you use it as a personalized Google, or you use it as an answer book. And I think it's dependent on the way you use it. Because again, it only gives you what you ask it. So if you use it as just generate me this and whatever, and don't think about it, then you never really learn. And there's certain things which, let's say I generate or whatever, and there's a very occasional times where I'll generate something and it'll just be something I want to look at, and I will have no idea how it did it, and I'll have no idea, and I continue to have no idea how it did it because I never looked into it, because I'm using it as a generative tool rather than a personalized Google where you can just ask it a question, and instead of scrolling through 5 different articles, you get the answer immediately and you can develop yourself at a faster pace. I completely agree with AI if that's how it's used, but there's so many people, especially in university, and this is why I think degrees as a whole, as we continue into the 4-year cycle of degrees or whatever, there's definitely going to be people who have that, who continue to be great learners, who continue to try and get a master's and be really smart people. But I think there's going to be a general median decrease in the intelligence of people who go get degrees due to the fact that they're just going to constantly use AI, have no idea what they're actually doing, and when they come out of a degree, they're going to be even worse than they need to be when they actually want to go get a job. So I think this is good, but I think dependent on how it's being used, I think blockchain is great, but I think my main focus is on the AI. From personal experience, from what I know anyway, I think AI is good to learn with, but I think the majority of people who use it in a self-disrupting manner is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. And there's going to be so many people who come out of not only like computer science degrees, let's say, but engineering degrees. And there's going to be so many people who get these degrees and go into jobs, and they're going to be junior, and they might slightly know what they're doing, and there might be certain fields where they make a massive mistake, but due to the fact they just don't know any different because they've used AI. And I think the general intelligence of workers into the next kind of generations of people who have degrees is going to get lower and lower due to this AI. But I think, again, I've yapped. I'm 10 minutes over. I'm just saying words now. It's just kind of this echo chamber of my words. I'm going to stop now. This isn't crypto anymore. I think the blockchain for evidence and I think the blockchain for degrees and stuff, I completely agree with. That is a great idea. And I think AI used in the right way, where it's more of a personalized learning tool rather than a generative replacement for your brain, I completely agree with. Okay, we're 11 minutes over. That is not bad. Okay, that is not bad. So I'm gonna have the timer because we just don't even need it. What do I have on the screen? I don't really have a secondary UI. So what I'm gonna bring up again, I guess I'll just bring up the goats, because obviously you guys are the goats and whatnot. Let me bring it up, and then I will obviously do the outro. So let me full screen actually. Here we go. Okay, it's kind of cut off. Whatever. So it's a bit off-centered. But my little sidebar thing where it tells you the thing, basically it was a bit off-centered and I couldn't get it in the center. Whatever. So I've talked a lot. Okay, I talk a lot. All right. So if you've never watched a trading stream before or chart stream, and this is your first time seeing me on the morning streams, I do apologize because I do talk a lot. But thank you for watching. Appreciate you all being here. I had fun. I enjoy doing these streams. Obviously, sometimes I just need to do these streams, and I have a lot of fun. So thank you for having me. Obviously, I'll be back tomorrow afternoon. Obviously, I'm going to be a Telegram as well. I'm going to be back tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon, and Saturday afternoon. So pretty much you'll see me every day. Obviously, including today, you'll see me every day apart from Friday. Yeah, Friday. So obviously you have a Friday off, I suppose. But you'll see me tomorrow. I will try look at actually, you know what? No, you know what? I'm gonna really quickly, really quickly. I'm gonna try look at Now I know I'm 10 minutes over. This is the right. Yeah, this is the right font. Yeah. Oof. This is the right. Yeah, I'm not looking at the wrong thing, right? I haven't looked at obviously it's Mantra. I'm pretty sure this is the coin, right? This is the coin. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the right coin, right? I'm not looking at the wrong coin. Someone confirm. I just don't want to look at the wrong coin. Yeah, this is the coin. This is It's Mantra. Like this is right. This isn't the right. This is. Oof, yikes! This isn't the wrong coin, right? Jeez. All right. Well, I'm not gonna bother looking there. Jeez. I'm just gonna zoom in. I should pretend that doesn't exist. Okay, what do we have? I'm gonna really quickly look at this. So, Zoom in. Yeah. I'm looking. All right. Okay. So I think I'm not gonna look. I'm not gonna look at there. I'm gonna look here. So if we really look, I think we have this move, and then we have this kind of high to the low. I'm gonna look at this high to this low. Okay, so this okay, so I'm gonna look at this as the resistance area. There we go. All right, so we have this equilibrium here. We had this area. We kind of came into it. Obviously, we've filled to this midpoint. We kind of waked up into this order block area. It was the crazy. Yeah, I remember seeing that. I think I remember seeing that on Twitter actually. Actually, let me read. I saw Mags actually. Good effort. Appreciate it. Might get fired. Oracle inflation from now on. You too, better. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mags. Appreciate the kind words of the spectacularness. So yeah, we've gone to this area. I'm just kind of trying to. Oh, sorry, I opened it up on this. And I just kind of like, where was it again? It was like this. I just kind of got flashbang and my eyes still hurt. It's alright. Just my eyes really hurt from just the whiteness. You couldn't see anything. It's white. So we came up with this into equilibrium. We found this resistance into this kind of engulf, and then obviously we found resistance at the midpoint, and then we continued downwards. We've formed this gap on the way down. We've retraced into roughly the midpoint, obviously wicking up into this resistance area, and now we're kind of hovering. So on terms of the daily, we've definitely seen a bit of a move down. What I'm going to do is obviously seem like we're slightly moving downwards again. We found this resistance. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to look at this really quickly and look at the looking at this area, the main area. So we have this kind of general, it's on the 4 hour now, general area. You can see we have this kind of massive just uptick in movement, and we're starting to retrace a tiny bit. I mean, I'm not saying we can't stop at this area, but realistically we want to look for a deeper retracement, especially into this area, into the midpoint, into about the 28 mark. I'm not saying we do come down to here, but obviously this is my opinion, towards about the 28 mark. If we look back, I want to see what we took out. We definitely took out some of these equal highs. If you look here, oh, actually, no, we didn't actually. We had these equal highs. We didn't really take, we have some highs here, especially these highs. If we actually do some raise quickly, there we go. So we have some of these highs, some of these equal highs here. We have this main high. Here we have a lot of stacked highs. We had these equal highs before. We can see we took these by a pinch, and then we've obviously come down. I think we could probably, again, we've come above all this, come above all these highs, starting a massive uptrend. I think we can definitely retrace into this area, about 28, 29, whatever it's going to exactly be. Retrace into here, continue to buy, and I think we continue to take these highs. I definitely think we're going to have a decent uptick up back into these areas, especially looking at here. These relative equal highs, I think we could probably definitely have a decent retracement into this area. This is probably going to be a massive, considering these highs, potentially a decent rejection block, maybe seeing a bit of resistance in this maybe 50 cent area, but probably aiming for about the 47. But I think as we continue upwards, again, depending on where the actual point is, depending on where the high is, because again, this is like an arbitrary move. It's hard to find the exact high, unless you consider it from back here, potentially. Obviously, that's, opinion, I suppose. It kind of resides in a very unfortunate area where we're not even near it. So I definitely think, if we move it back down to where we're looking at, I think it was here, maybe? Or maybe the last high, something about here, maybe. What was it this high I think we looked at? I can't remember now. Let me... There we go. I think it was this one. There we go. So yeah, going back to this, yeah, it was that high. I definitely think we've had this. I think we'll have this retracement towards 28, and then come back upwards. I think if we aim for these marks up here, especially as we can cascade downwards in terms of the amount of money flow into these coins to continue the high. Obviously, Bitcoin, then to Ethereum, then to altcoins, so on and so forth. As we see money move upwards, again, obviously, as you've mentioned, the buyback scheme. I think we continue upwards. Obviously, I think if we consider this a bit more of a long-term high, about 47, and then a deeper retracement, I think as we continue onwards, especially if we uptick this a bit more, we can see definitely having this main area about 28 cent. So I think we have a decent retracement for ARM, this massive move upwards, and then I think we continue upwards. I think we've filled this. We've taken at least one of these highs. We've come to equilibrium. We've probably seen a bit of if we go to maybe like the 50-minute, probably see some reversal. I mean, if we watch it, it's like, okay, massive move upwards and then move downwards. We have all these lows, and then we have this massive move down. This is when you want to look for it. Okay, cool. We form this move downwards. We have this massive candle up, massive candle down. So probably looking at a last candle up before the move down at an order block. So if we draw this, we can see we kind of come to the midpoint multiple times, actually. So probably looking for that. I mean, I'm just talking about it out loud in terms of how I would look at it. Again, obviously hindsight and whatnot. Massive candle, move downwards, resistance at this area. Obviously, we have this hoverage, and then we move down. This is when you want to look for, okay, cool. We've had this retracement. We've come into this gap at about the midpoint-ish. We have this retracement. We found, okay, buy area. Okay, I want to wait for a retracement to roughly about the midpoint, as we've seen previously. We take all these highs. We then probably short at this area. And where do we aim for? Well, again, if we're in a downtrend, you want to aim for all these lows. So again, as we continue downwards, it's either we fill the rest of this gap, which we can see we continue to do in this area, aim for either these lows, wherever you want to aim for. But as we continue on the 50-minute, we're in this downtrend. So I think as we see it, we can see we had this area, we filled this. Obviously, we took some of these, we took this high, you know, aiming a bit above us. But the main area we've printed out especially is this area for the equilibrium, or of this kind of gap area. So I think as we continue downwards, we're in a downtrend anyway. You want to aim for all the lows. So I think we're going to continue down towards this low, especially if we look back as well, we have more gaps. I think we could aim towards maybe 31.5 cents, continuing downwards as right now. That's a 50-minute. This is going to happen over the next, you know, maybe few hours, whatever it's going to take. So that's my opinion for ARM. That's my opinion. Obviously, 47 cent, 28 cent for a low, and then continue back upwards. Okay, I'm done now. Thank you. I've somehow managed to bring it to 25 minutes over. I always do it. I apologize. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'll be back on the I'll be obviously on Telegram. If I see any notifications atting me, I'll try to communicate. But other than that, that's pretty much it from me. I'll be back Tuesday, back Wednesday, back Thursday, back Saturday. You can't get enough of me. You know, I will never leave. You know, I'm just this constant gnat, this constant mosquito, just constant boom every day. I'm very excited for Wednesday. We've got the global leaderboard. Okay, you don't know what that is. Obviously, we're going to talk about it on Wednesday. Very excited for that to be a new entry. And to see some, I just want to see some consistency. I want to see how big numbers can get. Big number. I want to see 1 month of answer time. You know, I want to see these big numbers and how many answers people can get right. So I'm excited to see that develop over the next few streams and whatnot. So very excited for that. Other than, I'll be back Tuesday. Thank you, all of you, for being here. Appreciate you all for the morning stream, takeover, whatever. Again, like I said, back Tuesday. I genuinely have nothing else to say. Appreciate you all. Shout out to you all. Yeah, that's all. My opinion, not financial advice. Thank you, and I will see you on Tuesday. Love you all. Appreciate you all. Whatever. All the things in between. Not whatever. That's dismissive. Not whatever. Appreciate you all. I really do. Goodbye. I'm ending it. I'm going over. I'm goodbye. I'm ending. Bye.